When I work with clients like 21 Savage, Rae Sremmurd, 24kGoldn, this is how I start my mixes. If we haven't met, I'm Maddox, Maddmix Chhim with MyAudioAcademy. A quick backstory so I'm not a total stranger. I'm a 3-time Grammy winning multi-platinum mixing engineer, and today I'm going to break down my exact Pro Tools template. Let's jump into Pro Tools. Before we dive in, we've linked a free download to this mix template in the description, so you guys can download it and implement it into your workflow. So let's take a look at my session and I'll break it down for you guys. In the very top of my template, I have the mix bus, the vocals, the drums, and the music. All these plugins are preset. You can just go through route tracks to these auxes. So down here we have all my effects that I use for my vocals, the reverbs, delays, wideners, flangers, and then down here we have my lead all. I have a parallel compression for my vocals, and then I have a lead vocal start where it kind of just has my cleanup plugins for the vocals and how I like to get started. As we move down the session, we have my drums. I have a parallel for 808s for kicks. And down here, these are just auxes for you to route your music to that pretty much leads back to all these main auxes up the top, and my music auxes. So let's go through some of the plugins really quick just to see what I'm working with, what's under the hood.
Yeah, boy.
So for my mix bus, I have the Ozone 9. This is pretty much the overall processing plugin that I use. It has the EQ, low end focus, exciter, in the dynamics section. This is where you want to pay attention to. When you're compressing, you don't want to compress any more than about 1 to 1.5 dB, but everything else is pretty much ready, set to go, pretty much plug and play. The next plugin I have is Clariphonics. This you literally just turn it on and it adds a little bit of clarity and focus to the mix bus. For this, the massive passive, what I like to use for the EQ is I like to notch out around 330, and I feel like this makes the vocal pop out a little bit, and this is all I'm using this for my mix bus. And then for my limiters, I have 2 limiters back to back. I have the Pro L by FabFilter, and then I have the Oxford limiter. So I'm not hitting them too hard. I would say maybe for the Pro L, maybe like 3 dB of compression, and the same for the Oxford limiter. So you're not just smashing your limiter. Kind of takes the load off the other limiter when you have 2 of them back to back. And then I'm using a little bit of this enhance right here on the Oxford limiter. And then my last plugin on the mix bus is the Good Dither. And I like using this plugin because it kind of rounds out my low end. It makes it a little bit more full, and everything here is already preset, so you're good to go. Just pull it up. So for the next section, I have the all vocals. Again, everything is pretty much preset. You might have to adjust the threshold with any of my compression plugins in the template. I usually like to keep it around 1 or 2 dB. I don't do a lot of heavy compression. So the next one is a lo-fi. Kind of using this just to get a little bit more focus on the vocals by lowering the bit depth. And this one, I'm using the solid state SSL 9000 by Plugin Alliance. I'm using it just to run it through the analog channels. I have everything set on this one as well. For this, I'm using the exciter for the tape, and this just adds a little bit of color to the vocals.
A little touch, not much.
My next plugin is the Millennia EQ, and this one just opens up the vocal and adds a little bit of air. I'm just using the top end right here and taking out a little bit of that low 50 hertz in the vocal out. And then the next plugin I have is the Ensemble by Air, and this kind of gives the vocal space and a pocket to sit in. It kind of just gives it more of a feeling. And then for my drums, I have more analog channels by Waves. I'm using the mic and the Nevo, and then I just have a little bit of compression on my drums. So I have these all preset, ready to go for you guys. Maybe just compress not even more than 1.5 dB.
A little touch.
And we're going down the template now. We're on the music. I'm just having the same analog channels on here, the spike and the Nevo. So these right here, this is all of my reverbs, delays, flangers. So with these, it'll take some time to go through and break all of them down. But with the download, you guys can download it and just go through the plugins and see for yourself. The ones that I use in my mixes mainly already set with the sends preset, so you guys can just pop it up and run your vocals through. And the plugins that I'm using here are kind of my cleanup plugins for the vocals. For this one, all you have to do is adjust the threshold. The next plugin is the de-esser. compressor, all you got to do is adjust the threshold. This is my Pro Q3. I'll have a roll off about 80 hertz, and then I'm using dynamic EQ. And this is like a good starting point just to clean up your vocals. You probably have to do a little bit more processing after this, but this is where I like to generally start. And the next plugin is the RVox, just compress a little bit more and get the level of the vocals up a little bit more when it goes to the all-vox aux. So I forgot to mention these auxes right here, the lead all and the parallel compression aux. So this one, I'm kind of just running it through the Neve preamp just for that analog color. And this parallel compression is set, ready to go. It's routed to the lead all. So once you have your vocals routed to this aux right here, it will automatically go to this aux where the parallel compression will kick in. I like using parallel compression on my vocals. It thickens up the vocals. It makes it more present. It brings the vocal up front. And you guys can try it out. You know, just mute this aux and you can hear the difference that it makes to your vocals. All right, so we're almost halfway through the video. Just a reminder, we have the link in the description below. It's free for download, but if you guys want to keep content like this coming, you can make a generous donation, or any kind of donation is appreciated. But let's get back into the template. So the next thing we have in this template is the disrespect.
When y'all saying my name, put some respect on it.
Aux. This is for my drums parallel, and all I'm really doing is just smashing the drums. You don't have to adjust any of this. It's just ready to go. I'm adding a little punch with this DBX 160. Again, I'm running it through analog channels and using the sample size to kind of bring in that center of the drums. So as we move down, the next one is my C drums, where I have my main drum processing plugins. So for these, all you have to do is adjust the threshold. I wouldn't compress more than, I would say 1.5 dB on these compressors. So I have two versions of the same plugin. One's by UAD and one's by Plugin Alliance. I like the way both of them sound together. One plugin's more low and focused and the other one is more punchy. When I put them together, they give me a nice sound that I like for the drums. And then I have this Slate mix rack, just running it through analog. The black box, I'm just using the saturation on this, and that's pretty much it for this plugin. Again, here I'm just running it through analog channels just to get that center of the drums to come in more. We have the Pensado EQ. For this, I like to use the pre sometimes. Sometimes it's a little bit much, but you can add it if, you know, that's your taste. I find it make the drums a little bit more big and a little bit more wide. And here again, I'm using the lo-fi and then an SSL compressor. And for this one, again, I wouldn't compress more than 1 dB.
A little touch.
But everything else is set. The release attacks, the ratios. All you would have to do is adjust the threshold. And this right here is a parallel track for my 808 and kick. For example, if you have a kick track, you would copy that same audio file to this track and it's good to go. I'm just compressing it, smashing it, and then adding a little bit of that 100 back into it. And then these are just auxes that I like to have in my session, just to have them for organization. So I'll route, you know, my basses to these auxes, high end perks, low end perks, samples, sound effects to these auxes, and they route to these main auxes here at the top. The reason I like to do that is because if I need to go through and, for example, I just want the music to play, I could just mute the vocals and the effects, and then you have the drums and the music, and vice versa. So everything's routed. All you gotta do is import it into your template, route your audio tracks to these auxes, and you should be good to go. Oh, and the last aux I have here is just a doubler. Everything's set in here. You know, I like to use this just to add a little bit more space to the music. And that's pretty much it for the mix template. Before we close, we just launched a new MyAudioAcademy Discord where I would love to talk to you guys more about my mix template or any other questions you guys have. So if you want more information on that, click the link in the description to get access. And that's pretty much it. That wraps the video, and I'll see you soon.